Good evening, everyone. I'm Kubrali, and you're watching Awaz News. Tonight, I'll be taking you to top news across Canada.
Toronto could break temperature record Friday. Personal support worker facing charges after alleged elder abuse at care home in Vaughan Police. 3 people dead after collision in Brampton, 1 person in custody. Air Canada flight comes back to Toronto after nearly 7 hours in the air, several landing attempts. Hamilton cop who pointed firearm at another officer said to be fired after being found guilty of discreditable conduct. Man wanted after allegedly intentionally hitting driver during road rage incident in Richmond Hill. 5-month-old among 3 people found dead in Richmond Hill, Ontario home. Trudeau says he's furious over Bell Media layoffs, calling it a garbage decision. Dog attack in Rexdale leaves woman with life-altering injuries, police say. Toronto breaks 86-year-old temperature record amid unusually warm February. Ontario to forego planned 4.6% increase to beer and wine tax. Public computers can be used again at Toronto Public Library. Here's what's running and what's not. Man allegedly points shotgun at 2 youths in Vaughan, Ontario police. Ontario signs $3 billion healthcare deal with feds to increase access to doctors, reduce wait times.
These were the headlines, and now let's go through the details.
Toronto could see a record warm day Friday as the city continues to experience a bout of unseasonably balmy weather. A high of 7 Celsius is expected in the city today, not high enough to beat a record of 9 Celsius set back in 1990. However, Environment Canada is predicting a high of 12 Celsius on Friday. If reached, that would beat a previous record high of 10.6 Celsius set in the city back in 1938. On average, February 9 sees a high of minus 1.8 Celsius and a low of minus 10.4 Celsius in Toronto. Winter has been warmer than average season, with notably little snow. The city is seeing a mix of sun and cloud today. Showers are expected tonight with an overnight low of 6 Celsius, with showers or drizzle expected to continue into Friday. Earlier Thursday, fog advisory was in effect as dense patchy fog blanketed parts of the GTA. Black ice may form in areas where temperatures are below freezing due to freezing fog. Motorists should exercise caution, the advisory said. The fog advisory has since lifted. Saturday will be colder but still warm for this time of the year, with a high of 7 Celsius and a low of minus 4 Celsius. That will be followed by a mix of sun and cloud and a high of 3 Celsius on Sunday. 3 people are dead and 1 person is in police custody following a 2-vehicle collision in Brampton early Thursday morning. Emergency crews were called to Beauvais Drive, east of Chincozy Road, at around 1:30 a.m. for reports of a vehicle that crashed into a pole. At the time, there were varying reports that there may have been a second vehicle involved and that there may have been high speeds. Peel Police Constable Tyler Bell said 3 young male adults who were traveling in a Volkswagen Jetta were found at the scene of the crash. Police said first responders tried to revive them, but all 3 were pronounced dead. Their identities have not been released pending next of kin notification. Meanwhile, a second vehicle, a Nissan Altima, was subsequently located abandoned at a gas station near the scene, and a man believed to be the driver of that vehicle was arrested at a residence, Bell said. Bell said the police working theory is that the 2 vehicles traveling west on Beauvais Drive were involved in a high-speed interaction. The sequence of events, how they came into contact, that's all part of the investigation from our Major Collision Bureau, he said. When asked if the vehicles were racing prior to the crash, Bell said he cannot confirm that information at this time. Beauvais Drive from Chincozy Road to Marotta Avenue was closed for more than 12 hours as police investigated the deadly collision. A personal support worker is facing assault charges after York Regional Police learned of alleged elder abuse incidents at a care home in Vaughan. Police said they were notified on February 2nd following an investigation. Officer said an 89-year-old man was assaulted by a PSW on 2 occasions, once on January 29th and again on February 2nd. As a result, 32-year-old Suman Soni of Caledon, Ontario is facing 2 counts of assault. The charges have not been tested in court. Investigators believe there may be more victims and have released photos of accused so other victims may come forward. A Hamilton police officer has been found guilty after he pointed a firearm at another officer while on duty about 3 years ago. The incident occurred on October 23, 2021, though police have not released many details about what happened. Following the incident, Constable Brandon Turdick was charged with pointing a firearm and careless use of a firearm. He was suspended with a pay. On Thursday, Superintendent Greg Walton rendered his decision determining Constable Turdick guilty of 2 counts of discreditable conduct after having been found guilty of 2 criminal code offenses. Pursuant to Section 85(1)(b) of Police Services Act, I order Constable Turdick dismissed from Hamilton Police Service in 7 days unless he resigns before that time, Walton said in his decision. Police said they will not issue any further statements on the matter. An arrest warrant has been issued for a suspect who allegedly hit a man with his vehicle during a road rage incident in Richmond Hill Wednesday evening. York Regional Police were initially called to Anita Crescent and Red Maple Road area shortly after 9 p.m. for a collision. When they arrived, officers found an unoccupied black Kia sedan crashed into a pole and a Honda Civic, whose driver was treated for minor injuries, police said. Investigators have learned that the incident began near Bantry Avenue and Young Street, where the driver of the Kia pulled up beside the Honda. Police allege the driver of the Kia brandished a knife and threatened to kill the driver of the Honda. The victim continued to Anita Crescent, where he exited his vehicle to confront the suspect. The suspect then ran at the victim with a knife, police allege. Police said the driver of the Kia fled on foot and was last seen westbound on Anita Crescent. The suspect has been identified as 26-year-old Jared Kowarski Jean Louis of Richmond Hill. He's wanted for attempted murder, assault with a weapon, assault causing bodily harm, and uttering death threats. Police have released his photo asking for the public's help locating him. He's described as 5'8" with a thin build and was last seen wearing a black puffy vest-length winter jacket, white t-shirt, and gray sweatpants. Passengers on board on Air Canada flight bound for St. John's earlier this week spent close to 7 hours in the air and were brought back to Toronto after several attempts to land. The airline confirmed to Awaz News on Thursday that flight AC698 was on its way to Atlantic Canada on February 5th when the pilot encountered crosswinds near the airport and eventually made the decision to turn around. This was based on several factors. First, safety is and will always be our prime consideration. This is something customers also fully agree with. A spokesperson said in an email, adding that the severe winter weather in Atlantic Canada made it difficult to land anywhere else in the region. According to the flight tracking website flightaware.com, AC698 left Toronto at 9:43 p.m. for a trip that typically lasts a little over 3 hours. However, the flight log shows the plane was actually in the air for 6 hours and 37 minutes and returned to Toronto after making a number of circles around St. John's International Airport in an attempt to land. Air Canada said the pilot made the correct decision in returning to Toronto and that the airline anticipates weather changes on flights like this one and prepares accordingly with extra fuel. Moreover, Air Canada said that for customers on board, many of whom were from Toronto, returning to Pearson Airport was the best option due to the difficulty and finding accommodation late at night. The primary consideration in this case was to maintain safety throughout, the airline said. Police say a 5-month-old baby is among the 3 people found dead in Richmond Hill home last week in what investigators believe is a case of intimate partner violence. York Regional Police provided an update Thursday on their investigation into the February 1st incident at a residence near Yonge Street and Carville Road. Investigators said the other 2 deceased individuals were a 41-year-old man and a 36-year-old woman. The identities of the deceased and their relationship to one another were not disclosed by police. Post-mortem examinations have been completed, police said, but the causes of death were also not released. Officers were first called to the home on McKay Drive at approximately 4:15 p.m. last Thursday to check on the well-being of the occupants. It's unclear who made the call to the police. A homicide investigation followed, but police said at the time there was no threat to the public safety. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau trash-talked BCE Inc.'s widespread layoffs Friday, calling cuts to Bell Media a garbage decision. "I'm furious," Trudeau told reporters at a press conference in King City, Ontario. Bell Media said Thursday it is ending multiple television newscasts and making other programming cuts after its parent company announced job reductions and the sale of 45 of its 103 regional radio stations. Trudeau said the company should know better. He said radio stations and small community newspapers are increasingly being bought up by large corporations that lay off journalists and change the quality of their offerings. Then, when people don't watch as much or engage as much, the corporate entities say, "Oh, see, they are not profitable anymore. We are going to sell them off." Bell Media's advertising revenues declined by $140 million in 2023 compared with the year before, and its news division is seeing more than $40 million in annual operating losses, Chief Executive Mirko Bibic said. The Prime Minister said the move is eroding quality, local journalism, and Canada's democracy. "Stories from local communities are what binds the country together," he said. The company says less than 10% of its 4,800 eliminated positions would come from Bell Media, which includes both news and entertainment teams. As part of the shakeup, it said multi-skilled journalists would replace news correspondent and technician teams in some provinces. An associate journalism professor said the layoffs will lead to further deterioration of local newsrooms and journalism that is less contextual. The Ontario government says it is once again freezing the tax built into the price of beer and wine instead of allowing it to adjust for inflation. The tax does not appear on receipts at the checkout, but it's built into the price of products that customers see on store shelves. The beer basic tax and LCBO markup rates were set to go up by an estimated 4.6% on March 1st, but the province said Friday that they will block the increase. "From stopping increases to the beer tax to cutting the gas tax, we are keeping costs down for businesses and families across the province," Premier Duckworth said in a statement. The province has blocked the increases, which are pegged to the rate of inflation for the past 6 years. It estimates that the move has cost about $200 million. The latest freeze will be in place for another 2 years until March 1st, 2026. The province recently announced that it would be expanding alcohol sales to convenience stores by January 1st, 2026. The rollout will see beer, wine, cider, and ready-to-drink alcohol beverages in select convenience, grocery, and big box grocery stores across the province. The government said Friday that it plans to conduct a targeted review of taxes and fees on beer, wine, and alcohol beverages over the next few months as it consults with industry partners. It said the aim will be promoting a more competitive marketplace for Ontario-based producers and consumers. Toronto broke an 86-year-old weather record on Friday as temperatures climbed above 13 Celsius during an unseasonably warm February. Unofficial Environment Canada data showed the temperature at Toronto Pearson International Airport reached 11.4 Celsius at 10 a.m., smashing the previous record of 10.6 Celsius set in 1938. The temperature hit 13.4 Celsius at 12 p.m. and is expected to peak at 14 Celsius by 4 p.m., before slowly pulling back to 10 Celsius later tonight, according to the Federal Weather Agency. Speaking to Awaz News Friday morning, Dave Phillips, senior climatologist at Environment Canada, called the weather quite unusual. "It's almost like full spring," Phillips said. "I mean, these are temperatures that you would normally see at the end of April, not days before Valentine's Day." Phillips said Toronto City weather records, which have been kept since 1841 and measure the temperature in the city instead of by the airport, show the warmest February 9th ever recorded was 10 Celsius. So Friday's temperature effectively breaks a 183-year-old record as well. A mix of sun and clouds will join Friday's relative warmth with a risk of isolated showers in the afternoon. Saturday will be mainly cloudy with a chance of morning and midday showers and a high of 10 Celsius. Temperatures will pull back to 3 Celsius on Sunday ahead of a chance of isolated flurries early next week. For those looking forward to an early spring, Friday's forecast is more than welcome, although it likely won't stick around, Phillips said. Our forecast is saying that we are going to see over the next month more seasonable temperatures, Phillips explained. So maybe a return to temperatures below freezing even during the daytime and more snow. On average, Toronto sees 40 centimeters of snow, or a third of city's total winter snowfall after February 9th, Phillips said. So far, Toronto's winter has been relatively mild, with the city's greatest snowfall this season measuring only 5.6 centimeters. Public computers can now be used again at Toronto libraries months after a cyber attack thwarted their systems, although printing is still unavailable. On Tuesday, the Toronto Public Library (TPL) announced it had reinstated its computer workstations at all its branches, with visitors able to reserve time in advance through its online reservation system by phone or in a branch. While most public computers are back up and running, Mac computers are not. Children's computers will be available shortly. Printing services still remain unavailable, with TPL saying it does not have a set date for when this will return. Any TPL customer who placed a book on hold will be notified by mid-February via phone or email when their item is ready for pickup. Finally, 1 million books and other materials returns and new items will be processed and back on library shelves, the library said in its February 6th service update. As soon as TPL's catalog restores later in February, the library said visitors can place, manage, and cancel their holds online. Toronto Public Library users have not been able to place holds on books, access their accounts, or use computers on sites since the cyber attack on October 23rd. At that time, employees' personal information, including social insurance numbers and copies of government-issued identification, were stolen. In late January, some sections of TPL's website restored, including resources, programs, and branch information. We continue to recover from a cybersecurity incident that disrupted all library systems and technology. Restoring systems and services across 100 library branches is a complex undertaking, and we are making progress in our recovery efforts, the library said in its service update. Ontario Premier Doug Ford has signed a $3.1 billion healthcare deal with the federal government to increase access to primary care and reduce wait times. The agreement was announced by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau late Friday morning, making Ontario the fifth province to come to an agreement with Ottawa for its share of a $200 billion health accord. The other provinces with agreements include British Columbia, Prince Edward Island, Alberta, and Nova Scotia. The announcement comes almost a year after two governments reached a 10-year deal in principle to pay the health care in Ontario with the additional $46 billion in funding to the Canada Health Transfer. Premiers have been asking the federal government to increase their annual health transfers to cover 35% of their health budgets, up from 22%. The kick-off increase would have amounted to about $28 billion a year, with an additional 5% annually after that. About a year ago, Ottawa said its bilateral deal with Ontario included $8.4 billion and one-time top-up of $776 million to address urgent needs in pediatric hospitals and emergency rooms. As part of the deal, provinces had to agree to expand access to family health services, support health workers, and reduce backlogs, increase mental health and substance use support, and modernize their healthcare systems to include digital tools. The $3.1 billion promised Friday covers the first 3 years of this agreement, ministry officials confirmed. For generations, universally accessible healthcare has been a core part of what it means to be Canadian, Trudeau told reporters. It's built on a promise that no matter where you live or what you earn, you will always be able to get the medical care you need. Under the agreement, Ontario has pledged to add hundreds of new family physicians and nurse practitioners, as well as thousands of nurses and personal support workers to fill staffing shortages. Ford called the deal historic, saying it was about advancing priorities regardless of political stripes and will help fund targeted programs. This new funding will bolster the significant work we are doing in Ontario, he said. Police say a man allegedly pointed a shotgun at two youths who were taking pictures of themselves last week in Vaughan, Ontario. It happened at approximately 9:45 p.m. on February 3rd in the area of Pine Valley Drive and Pine Heights Drive, York Regional Police said in a news release issued Friday. At that time, police said the two youths were taking photos of themselves when the suspect exited a nearby home and approached them. Police alleged the suspect pointed a shotgun at the two youths and told them to leave the area. As the youths were walking away, the suspect allegedly got into a car, drove onto the sidewalk, cut them off, and made a threatening remark, police said. One of the victims' parents reported the incident to police the next day, according to police. Following an investigation, police identified Elton Lomsey, 44, of Vaughan, as a suspect in connection with the alleged incidents. He is charged with possession of weapon, uttering threats, and pointing a firearm. Police said officers executed a search warrant at Lomsey's residence, where the number of firearms were allegedly seized, including a shotgun.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Kubrali, and you're watching Awaz News. Tonight, I'll be taking you to top news across Canada.